As it is mentioned before, USA always been an important trading partner for Indonesia. The change in the U.S. trade policy will surely give a significant impact on Indonesia trade balance. Other than that, U.S. also holds as the position with the biggest GDP in 2019. To have a bigger picture on this, let's see the next data. This is 5 countries with the biggest GDP in 2019 in trillion US dollar. As you can see, USA 22.32 trillion US dollar, and after that we have Japan 5.41 trillion US dollar. After Japan, we've got Germany 3.98 trillion US dollar, France 2.77 trillion US dollar, and Great Britain as much as 2.72 trillion US dollar as its GDP in 2019. The United States ranks first with the world's largest economy. The country's gross domestic product reaches 22.32 trillion US dollar in 2019, with a growth of 2.1%. The International Monetary Fund recorded that the total GDP of developed countries reached 53.45 trillion US dollar. 8 of them are dominated by countries in the America and the Europe. Japan represents Asia with a GDP of 5.41 trillion US dollar. The country grew 0.5% from 2018. The slowing growth of Japan was caused by the trade war between the US and China at that time. And talking about global power economies, Asia predicted to take over world economic growth. Let's see the data. This is Asia region GDP projection from 2020 to 2024. As you can see, the number keeps on growing. And in 2024, the number of Asia region GDP projected to reach 30,298.2 billion US dollar. And this data is taken from World Economic Forum 2019. The gross domestic product of countries in Asia has continued to grow over the past 5 years. In fact, the International Monetary Fund, quoted by the World Economic Forum, predicts that the number will continue to increase until 2024. Asian GDP in 2020 is predicted to dominate world GDP. The World Economic Forum also estimates that the region will contribute to 60% of global growth. Asia Pacific has contributed to the flood of 2.4 million new middle classes that have entered the global economy. And talking about global economy power, developing countries contributed significantly. Let's see the next graphic. This is the trend of developing countries' GDP growth in 1,000 US dollar. In 2016, the trend of developing countries as much as 4.7 thousand US dollar, and the number also keeps on increasing. In 2019, as much as 5.38 thousand US dollar, and in 2020 it is predicted to reach 5.65 thousand US dollar. And the gross domestic product, or GDP, of developing countries in 2020 is projected to reach 5.65 thousand US dollar per capita. This figure increased from 2010, which was only 3.95 thousand US dollar. Besides GDP per capita, the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, mapped developing countries with 16 indicators. The GDP growth in developing countries was 4.6%, up from the previous year of 3.9%. For information, the United States revoked the status of developing countries in Indonesia and other countries in the World Trade Organization, or WTO. When viewed from GDP per capita, the value of Indonesia is still below the average of developing countries. Recorded in 2020, it is projected to only be 4.46 thousand US dollar. And how about the projection of Indonesia economic growth in the middle term? Let's see the next data. This is the Indonesia economic growth targets based on medium-term development plan, or we call it RPJMN. The purple one is for the lower limit, and the yellow one is for the upper limit. And as you can see, The number is pretty much showing the optimistic view about Indonesia's economic growth. By 2024, the growth of Indonesia economy will reach, or predicted to reach, 6.5% as its upper limit. This one is taken from Indonesia State Secretary Office in 2020. The government is targeting economic growth in the 2020 to 2024 medium-term development plan to increase every year in terms of expenditure, investment, and consumption become the driving force of the economy over the next 5 years. While from the production side, the highest growth came from the service sectors. The largest distribution of GDP is in the manufacturing industry. And in this medium-term development plan report, it is stated that to achieve the economic growth target of an average of 5.7 to 6% per year, an investment of 35,212.4 to 35,455.6 trillion rupiah is needed during 2020 to 2024. Coronavirus outbreak had caused the change in global economic projection. Let's see the next data. This is global economic growth prediction following coronavirus outbreak. Before coronavirus, it is predicted, or actually IMF, or International Monetary Fund, predicted the global economy will reach 3.4%. But after coronavirus outbreak, they're kind of, quote unquote, discounted the projection to be only 3.3% only. The coronavirus epidemic could damage global economic growth this year, the IMF had said, but a sharp and rapid economic rebound could follow. Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, said there may be a cut that we are still hoping will be in the 0.1 to 0.2 percentage space. In its January update to the World Economic Outlook, the IMF lowered global economic growth forecasts in 2020 by a 0.1 percentage point to 3.3%. Following a 2.9% growth the previous year, the lowest in a decade, Georgieva said that was too early to assess the full impact of the epidemic, but acknowledged that it had already affected sectors such as tourism and transportation. And that's it for today's infographic segment. Stay tuned on Market Headlines because we'll be right back after the break.